Mic check, mic check. Shalom, Lord Christ, Rose, Priest, and Officer Gatab of the ISUPK Detroit. Of course, we're out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under command of Junior Honor. Before we get started, be mindful of the upcoming feast days. You have the Feast of Purim that is coming up actually in a couple of days, in about a week or so. February the 22nd will be the opening of the Feast of Purim. Closing will be February 23rd. If you be in the area of the Carolinas, Commander Johanna will be attending the Feast of Purim in North Carolina if you're able to make it. After that, the next feast day will be the Passover. If you're not able to get off, still send your support. But this Passover will be April 20th, 2024, also in North Carolina, the same place we had it last year. If you're able to make it, we'll have events that whole week. So if you're able to take the time off, let your oppressor know now that you won't be able to attend work. Guess what? You guys do it for Cancun. You guys do it to go to Vegas. You guys do it to go see the new movie to come out. Why don't you take a couple of days off for a feast day one time? Let's take a couple of days off, actually be and walk as Christ walked. That's what Christ did. Christ attended the feast days. While y'all celebrating the quote unquote death, burial, and resurrection, guess what? Christ was celebrating Passover. What do y'all think he was eating? like, I think that is almost comical that the feast day that Christ was celebrating, Christians don't celebrate. They rather celebrate uh, a leftover pagan holiday where bunnies lay Easter eggs. Like, where do you get that from? Like, where in the Bible was that relevant? What were they doing around the time that you're celebrating Easter? What was Christ doing? What was the Last Supper? Like, what? Like, when is the Christian church actually going to teach the Bible? I can give you an answer. Never. They're never going to do it. We're straight right now, though. So those are the upcoming feast days. If you have any questions, of course, you just get with your camp leader, the camp nearest you, for different additional information. Of course, if you want to attend any of our classes, we're at 12355 Gratiot Avenue, Suite B, of course, in Detroit, Michigan. Um, if you're in a different zone, just go on the website, try to find that zone nearest you. So let's get started. Last week we ended up on finishing up on basic conversations. We kind of did a quick recap on some of the ideas, starting off that class that we've been working through these past couple weeks on identifying root words, identifying the prefix and the suffixes. I'll put the suffixes on the board shortly. Um, and when you identify prefixes and suffixes, that actually helps you identify the root word. Sometimes you'll see a word, um, something as simple as Abanawa. Like Nawa would be the suffix. That means our. Abba is the root word, which is father. So now that you know those two things, you can put that together and have a complete understanding of what they're saying. Our Father. Um, so when we put all of those together, you're starting to get a more and more complete understanding on working through the language. So today we're going to start off. Um, we'll throw the alphabet on the board. I definitely need to get practice on that Assyrian, writing it out. I feel like I do fairly decent, of course, in the ancient, but what we read in most contexts or what we read in most areas that we go look up Hebrew, it will be in the modern or the Assyrian Hebrew. I'm not going to leave these on the board. I'm going to erase frequently for space. I think it'll work out better. Usually I try to leave that on the board. The only thing I'll probably leave on the board would be the prefixes and suffixes. If it starts taking up too much room, I'll go ahead and take it down. Marker dying on me. And of course, as you're going along, it would not hurt to say these out loud. That just helps the memorization of it. Meaning, um, the more you see something, the more you say something, the more you do something, the more easier you'll be able to recall it in the future. So if you're saying ah, ba, ga every single time you're going over it, when you see it, you'll readily identify those characters. So lock it for the hand right. So real quick, you have your ah, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za, ha, ta, ya, ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa, ta, za, qua, ra, sha, and tha. One of the things you'll always notice, you won't find certain vowels in the Hebrew at all. The only quote unquote vowel you have is A, for the most part. You won't find E's, you won't find O's and U's. Um, and then when you go back in history, you start looking up the the earliest languages and what those contained, that lines up. The earliest languages that man has recorded and understand, guess what? Don't have vowels. So when we're looked at as crazy because we're speaking this language, and then your oppressors are speaking a bastardized version of our language, we're wrong now. But all the data, all the history says we're correct. But that's neither here nor there. So we can go ahead and get it in the Assyrian. I'm gonna be a little bit slower writing these down for handwriting purposes, practice purposes. Bear with me. Um, if you any of you out there get write these out a lot faster than I can, you know what? Come to class one of these days. I'd love to call you up to the board. Help me out. Throw these on the board for me one time for the one time. So you have your I. And remember, write these the if you can write these the same way every time as best you can, because you'll find various scripts of the same various handwritings to the same script, and it might be confusing for your understanding. So for example, this particular character, like what I'm reading it from is script is wrote out in two parts. So it kind of looks like I did just a line at the top and a line straight down. Kind of looks like a seven. When you go down to the Ra, it's the exact same shape. I'll just write it over here, but it's wrote down in one stroke. It's over and down instead of over, stop, down. So little variations like that, if you're writing it that way, you can understand it or see it better on how they write it. And then sometimes they just throw a little slant in or, a little finesse, but definitely understand how to distinguish those characters as you're moving along and reading them. All right, so the first line you have your ah, your ba, your ga, your da, your ha, your wa, your za, your ka, your ta. Um, the next line you have your ya. I write mines like that. Sometimes I see people's is kind of like slanted. Other times I've seen it where it's just like a little line like that. I kind of write mines like that, almost like a apostrophe, a boxed apostrophe, or however you want to say it. Where I'm at, you have your ka, your la, and remember with your kas that there's multiple versions. So in your ancient, um, you have the ka that's um, well, we're in the Assyrian, so I'll just show you an Assyrian. So this is the ka for the Assyrian right now. It kind of looks like a C or a backward C rather. But when it's at the beginning of a sentence, or I mean at the end of a sentence, it'll be written like this. So sometimes you'll like this is definitely ka. And anywhere other part of the sentence, but when it ends a sentence, it'd be like this. And since this is so familiar or similar to the Ra, you just have to pay attention or what you're translating. So when we get to the Ra, you'll see how similar that is. And it's also similar to the Da as well. Where are we at? We're at the Ma. I do want to find a better way to write that Ma again. That looks terrible. We'll write it like that for now. All right, so you have your ah ba ga da ha wa za ha ta ya ka, which is the hard ka pause, la ma na sa I pa to za so like your qua, and here's your ra. So notice this is ra, this is da, this is ka, and they're very similar looking characters. They all look like sevens for the most part. So that's why I'm saying it's something that you just got to be mindful of. Properly identifying the letters so you can translate the word or identify that word correctly. And then you have your sha and your tha. So there you have your series. And then real quick, we have on the side, we have our prefixes. Prefixes are identifiers. They show action before the verb or the root word, if you want to call it. Possessiveness as well. So if you wanted to say I, it's I. So like, let me get out the camera. If you want to say I before something, you would say I. If you want to say in, like we say in the name of, we would say ba. If you go down, you'll see ha is the. I'll write that one out. That's a good example. So in the name. So when we salute, we'll say ba ha shem name is Shem. Ha is the, and Ba is in. So that's in the name. So you have a prefix, and then the root word Ba Hashem in the name. So I, Ba is in, Da is do, Ha is the, Wa is and, Ya. Um, a common example for the Wa, when we do the blessings in the Hebrew, when we say and the sisters or and the troopers, we would say Wa Akwathian, for and the sisters. And that why is indicative of the and. So then you have your ya, which is the he, ka is as or like, la is to or for, your ma means of or from. Then you have sha, which is whom, which, or pertaining to, and then tha is the or the, um, pretty much the meaning or giving you the meaning of you. So there you have your prefixes. And just as a reminder, that's something that you'll just, those are just one of those memorization pieces. That's just something that you'll just have to memorize. It's not, it's almost like the definition of a word. You know what I mean? It's when you understand that definition, you can properly use those words. And as you, of course, grow your vocabulary, then you grow your sentences. It's no different. You know, it's certain things that you just identify with. I guess a better example would be when you know you want to say something in the past tense or something that you're currently doing or something that you will do, you'll add certain words in the beginning of it, or you might add certain conjugations at the end of it. So if you're currently doing something, you might say, I'm watching TV. And that ing means that you're presently doing something. And that's something that a person just automatically remembers after they understand it. Just like the past tense of something. When you say, I watched something, ed, that means you did it in the past. So a couple weeks ago, when we went over the past, present, and future tenses, there were certain rules that went along with them. Um, real quick, just to go over a couple, like when you had, so like yeah, I believe the present tense. But let me get it. I don't want to misquote it. Right, here we go. So the if you wanted to say something in the present tense, no, the past tense, you would add a thaya to the word. That was something that you would add at the end of the word, that will let you know that you're doing something in the past or you did something in the past. I guess the example would be if I wanted to say I learned or you learned, it would be atha lamad thaya, which is you learned, and atha is you learned is lamad, or learned or to learn is lamad. But to say that in the past tense, you would say lamad thaya. So thaya is almost the same thing as ed in the Western or English language. You know, that's all that is. And if you look at it like that, it's not that hard to understand and grab. It's just a different set of words in those same concepts. And you got to remember that English is one of the newest languages. It's not an old language like that. So that means they got these concepts from older languages, you know, and that's all it is. All right, so right next to them, I'm gonna go ahead and put these suffixes on the board. And if you have any questions, go ahead. Feel free to go ahead, throw them in the chat. And just so you know, suffixes go at the end of a word. Might have to change out some of these markers. So you have Yah. If Yah is at the end of the word, that means my. So your suffix is going to show direct possession. Ka at the end of the word will be you or your. Y at the end of the word is he, his, or it. Ha at the end of a word is her. And then you have Nawa. That means our. Um, and the example I gave earlier was Abanawa. That Nawa is at the end of the word Abba, and that means our. Kam would be your masculine plural of y'all, and Khan is the feminine plural of y'all. And I'm saying y'all because that's how we talk. You all, y'all, same thing. Then you have ma, which is there, and that's the masculine. And then na, which is also there, and that's the Their, which is the feminine. So yeah, it is kind of taking up a lot of the board. So I'm gonna give you a second to write those down. You have your prefixes and your suffixes. Real quick, going over those again. You have your prefixes is I, which is I or I am. Ba is in. Da is do. Ha is the. Wa is and. Ya is he. Ka is as or like. La is to or for. Ma is of or from. Sha is whom, which pertaining to. And tha is the and or you. Suffixes is ya is my, ka is you or your, wa is he, his or it, ha is her, noa is our, kam, Kam, is y'all, you all, Khan is the feminine of you all, that's that plural, and then you have ma there and na is there. Ma is the masculine, na is the feminine. And of course, if I didn't say it, suffixes are found at the end of the word. Prefixes go before, suffixes go at the end. Um, why I got the suffixes on the board, I guess I can do a quick recap on our qual stem clauses. What a qual stem is a simple action, movement, or gesture slash move. So there's a few ways to identify when you see a qual stem and what it is. So the word quatal, Qatal, means to kill. Quatal. So if I wanted to say in the masculine singer, which is the third person, meaning he killed. So it's not I killed. It's not they killed. It's a singular person. It's a he. It's masculine. I would I would say the singular version would be Qatal. Now if I wanted to say it in the masculine singular in the second person, you killed, that will be qatal tha. You add a tha at the end of it. If it was the feminine singular, so like in the first time, the first one we went over was the masculine singular in the third person. Then you have the feminine singular in the third person, and that's the qatal ha. You add a ha at the end of it, and that means she killed. So like here, I can't say kill. See, just as a side note, like, and I don't know why the oppressors just think they gonna stop what the Most High has already written. Like, it's not gonna stop us. The truth is gonna get out there, but they're making it so difficult just to post and keep videos online. Like, it's very frustrating to me and hypocritical to the core that you can go on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and you can Google a Gucci Mane song or a Lil Wayne song, a 21 Savage, or whoever your latest rapper is. And they're going to have words in there or content in there that is not politically correct, so to speak. But if we use those same words in context, in truth, our videos get banned. Like even on YouTube, our pages have been closed down for things that we've said, but I never saw um, a Kevin Gates video banned and shut down because of the crazy stuff he was saying. Like, let's be real, that's hypocritical. So when the scripture talks about who turned the truth of God into a lie, and then you go into the scriptures and what's that verse that talks about they say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not, speaking us speak unto us smooth things, prophesy unto us deceits. Like that's what this world wants. They don't want to know the truth. They want to be plugged up in the matrix. They can care less that their brothers and sisters is dying right next door. They don't care. They'd rather scroll and keep up with the Kardashians. I don't even know if that's a. I'm pretty sure it's a new oppressive idol that people are following now. Like, and what's crazy is, as they fail at the attempt to be us, you glorify them. Like them having fun is being us. Them vacationing, like they don't go to like business places and all of those places to go vacation. They go to rural areas. Like they do things that we do. That's their fun. Being a culture vulture. Don't perpetuate the cycle of ignorance, Israel. We kind of had enough of that. All right, so I'm gonna get these. No, I'm gonna leave those on the board for a minute. Just throw up these vocabulary. So basic verbs. So of course we usually go over a lot of vocabulary, um, just vocabulary in general. But these I feel like are basic verbs that we use or can potentially use on a regular basis. And of course, my suggestion is if this is something that you're actually interested in using or doing on a regular basis or being proficient in, try to use it as much as possible. Like I remember when I was in high school. Shout out to Miss Holiday. That was uh, that was our Spanish teacher's name, and she didn't allow us to just speak in English. Like we had to, in her words, speak in Spanglish. speak as much English, I mean Spanish as you can, and then fill in the rest in English. And then you grow as you go. So we might say one or two words in Spanish and then fill the rest in English. And then she'll just rattle off what she says in Spanish, slow it down, try to get you to understand it, and then translate it. But as we progressed, that was a strategy or that was a technique that I felt was useful. All right, so we got the first row of vocabulary on the board, and these are basic verbs. And just to give you a brief understanding, so notice that you might have some basic verbs that, like the last one, and actually the first and the last one, there's a few of them that got ed at the end. So answered, ask, builded, closed, finished. These are all things that were done in the past tense. You see, they have that ed at the end. Don't get that confused with speaking in the past tense, as in with that direct person involved. Like these verbs doesn't say I answered. These verbs don't say she answered or he or they or we. So we wouldn't have to add the thaya to say answered. We're just saying the verb answered. You see what I'm saying? So don't mix the rules of conjugating in the past, present, and the future tense. Those come when you're using them directly with the individual, as in I answered, she answered, he answered, etc. All right. So answered in the Hebrew is I na. I na. Um, I did say I was going to do all of these in the Assyrian, didn't I? All right, so I'm gonna throw them in the Assyrian. Bear with me. This might take some time. I already started this one in the ancient, so I'm gonna finish it in the ancient. I just do the next one in the Assyrian. Bear with me. I'm copping out on that one. All right, so you have your I, na, and ha. Your na and your ha is connected, so you just have your I na. Yes, that looks like a O. Yes, I pronounced it I. No, those are not vowels. All right, that's the best way I can put it. Um, all right, so moving forward, I'm gonna throw these in the Assyrian. As I said, bear with me. Chill out. So asked is sha'al. Sha'al. You have your sha, your ah, and your la. Sha, your la, no, ah, and then your la. One of the things I am going to clarify in the future is I never really seen this conjugate, the connector lines written in the Assyrian. So notice how in the ancient I have this downward arch to indicate that this word is pronounced singularly And when it's connected in the upward arch, connecting two of these characters, the na and the ha, it's pronounced na instead of naha. I never really seen that used in the Assyrian. So that's one of the things as you get familiar with the language, you'll have to understand or know when two words are pronounced together or two words are pronounced separately. All right. Broke is shabar. Shabar. Yeah. Sha again. Your ba and then your ra. Build it is bana. Well, made that one come out just a little bit. All right. Closed is shagar. Salakia, not sugar, sugar. So that's your sa. Drank. You notice from that word that's also past tense. Drank is shatha. Eight is akal. Salaki. You know what, Israel? I think I did that twice before. No, I did it right the first time. I just did it wrong that time. I had my side going backwards. And then finished is Gamar. Gamar. So you have your Ga, your Ma, and your Ra. There you have your basic verbs in the Assyrian. Remember, just don't write them down. I know sometimes you'll be at your house, you'll be by yourself, and it's just like, well, it's nobody here. It's no point of me saying it out loud. Again, it is a point of you saying it out loud. Get used to speaking it. A lot of the times, you'll have it right in your head. You'll be able to say it in your head, and then as you go to speak it, If you're not familiar with it, you'll get tongue tied. You'll read it and try to mentally process it in a Western ideology or a Western phonetic grammar, but then it would need it to have been done in a more Eastern culture. So you have answered is I na, asked is sha'al, broke is shabar, builded bana, closed is shagar. I mean sagar. I keep wanting to say sha, and that's a sa. Drank is shatha, and that's a tha with an H at the end. So you have the tha, which is the last letter of the alphabet. That's the THA. That kind of looks very familiar to the ha, and then you have the ha. So it's the ha, the tha and the ha is connected, so it still would be pronounced tha. So it's drink shatha. Eight is akal, and that's your your ka, and your la. The ka and the la is connected, so it's akal, and then you have your finish, which is gamar. All right, let's get these off the board. Let's put up the next set. Let's put up the next set. All right, so for the next set of words, we have guided, kiss, learn, protected, sat, said, and stood. Um, all right, Israel, I'm copping out this time. This time around, I'm gonna throw these up in the ancient just to get them on the board. Um, and what I want you to do is go ahead and put them in the Assyrian, and we'll just alternate like that. It's only fair, right? So you have Dirac, Da, Ra, and Ka. Kest is Nashak, and notice, well, I'm pretty sure it's nothing connected there that I'll bring up right now. So you have your Na, your Sha, and your Kwa. The Sha and your Kwa is connected. That looks like Shaq, but it's Nashak. Next, you have learned, which is Lamad. The actual, you can use studied as well. So if you're trying to say the word studied, learned and studied is the exact same word. Protected is Hainan. The actual letters are ha, na, and na, but the na and the oh. So that just made me think about something as I'm reading. So during the Sabbath service, of course, you got to read the Torah in the Hebrew, and sometimes I come across words and they have to back syllables. Um, for example, you like this protected ha, na, and na. So when I write it out, you'll see that two words are doubled up. You have your ha, your na, and your na. I'll see this and say ha na na when technically it will be Hanan. So that's a these two would be connected. Now what I want to do is get clarification on how often would that be a fact? Is that a rule? Is that is that something that I can look at moving forward every time I see something like nana? Should I pronounce it non? Anyway, all right, moving forward. So you have Sat is Yashab. Yashab. Said is Amar. And stood is Imad. So you might commonly hear the phrase Imad Yum. That's given the plurality to who they're telling to stand. All right, so that's the next set of words. You have guided, kissed, learned, protect, sat, said, and stood. Guided is Dairak, kissed is Nashak, learned is Lamad, protected is Hanan, sat is Yashab, said is Imar, and stood is Imad. Give you a second to go ahead and get that on the board. I'm gonna go ahead and check this chat, see if they got any questions. All right, no questions in the chat. We're going to go ahead and move forward, get the last set of vocabulary, and then close out with our translations. Again, these are basic verbs, verbs to words I feel that you would commonly use on a daily basis. Um, Anytime you learn a new word, definitely write it down, store it up. I feel like building your vocabulary is like the first thing in speaking the language. Um, of course, the more words you know, the more words you can, of course, use to communicate. And that's the whole goal is to communicate. right. So the last set of words is supported, talked, walked, worked, and wrote. So supported is samak. Samak. Talked is the bar. You can actually say speak or talked or spoke. All the bar. Walked is halak. Worked is ibad, not ibad. It's ibad. And then wrote is kathab. Kathab. All right, so this time around, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it up in the Assyrian. So you have shamak in the Assyrian, and it's samak, not shamak. So if I said salakia, it's samak. Yasa. All right, so yeah, I'm back to write my Ma's funny in the Assyrian. So I feel like I did a good job writing it the last time. But anyway, the bar, you have your da, your ba, and your ra. Your ba and your ra is connected. So your da looks like a seven. Your ba looks like a seven with a platform. And then your ra is also a seven looking character. Um, Walked is halak. You have your ha, your la, and your ka. So your ha, your la, and then your ka. Worked is ibad. I looks like the Y in English. Your ba, Salakia, and then your da. And then wrote is kathab. Kathab. You have your ka, your tha, and then your ba. Kathab. So that's your last set of basic verbs. Get those in your notes. So you have supported is shamak, talked is the bar, walked is halak, worked is ibad, and wrote is kathab. Kathab. I give you a minute to get those on the board, and then we'll move into the last portion where we're going to have five sentences that we're going to translate. Some of those we're going to point out, of course, prefixes and suffixes. Others we might identify the past, present, and future tense. This is really just for the translation purpose and I guess the pronunciation of it. And then next week, we're going to start time. I think I'm going to do a whole lesson on time. So we're going to go over like days of the week, months, how to tell time, the different integers of time. Like if I wanted to say hour, that is sha'aha, minute is the quarter is rabai, half. I wanted to say half past something. That's kataza ya. One is akamath, two shatham. So those integers in dealing with how to tell time, then getting into dates, days of the week, those timekeeping vocabulary words. We'll start those next week. Um, and like I said, just progress, keep them all. Vocabulary in one section, um, maybe word structures in another, and that way your notes will kind of stay, organized. Um, Also, for anybody who's tuning in new for the first time, there's certain rules that you should know about the Hebrew. I will try to find a quick way to go over them, like almost like an intro in every class. So as soon as we go over like the alphabet, I might just say a couple few things to just to help you understand. Like as I write in the Hebrew, notice that you'll see me writing from the right to the left. Like when I'm writing the actual Hebrew characters out, I'm writing from the left to the from the right to the left. Now when I'm translating it out and I'm using the English characters to say the Hebrew words, then you'll see me write it from the left to the right as Western culture do. That's how they pronounce their words. But in our culture, it's the other way around. It's from the right to the left, not the left to the right. Just simple things that you will pick up on so you don't be reading books backwards and shit. I mean, and stuff. All right. So the five sentences that we're going to translate. All right, so I am going to take these prefixes and suffixes off the board. I'm going to use this area just to give you some vocabulary word or like a key in what we're about to go over. So yesterday, today, and tomorrow. You have yesterday, today, tomorrow. And then you have go slash walk, house, learn, Hebrew, listen, song slash music, guard. I think I can get one more. School, and then put a rest up here. Those are our words. So yesterday would be thumb a while. You have your thigh. voila, the Y and the La is connected. Today is Hayawam, Hayawam. Tomorrow is Makar, and that's the Ma, the Cha, and the Ra. The Cha and the Ra is connected. So Makara. Gotta put a little air with the Cha. It's the CHAA. I'm getting a little better pronouncing it. All right, so then you have go and walk is halak. So if I wanted to say go over there, walk over there, that's halak. House is bayath. Bayath. You guys should know what learn is. We just had learned on the board. It's the same word or roughly the same word, but we definitely went over this one before. It's lamad. If I wanted to say Hebrew in the in Hebrew, it's Ibaria. 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 Listen is Shemai, not to be confused with Shamar. Shamar is watch or to watch. Shemai is listen. So then you have song or music, which is Shayar. Shayar. You might know some brothers in the school named Shayar. Then you have guard or security or watch, which is Shamar. And of course, we got precinct officer 5,000 in the class holding down the Shamar. Then we have Rock, precinct officer Rock. Then we have school, which is Bayath Sapar. Bayath Sapar. Bayath Sapar. And then your last word that we threw up at the top is rest. And that is Shakab. All right, go ahead and get those down. Try to wrap this up within the next 10, 15 minutes. Look, so you have rest, Shakab. Yesterday is Thama Wal, Salakia, Thama Wal. Then you have today is Hayawam. Tomorrow is Makar. Go or walk is Halak. House is Bayath. Learn Lamad. Hebrew Baryat. Salakia Abaria. Listen Shemai. Listen is Shemai. Song or music is Shayar. Guard is Shamar. And school is Bayath Sapar. And rest is Shakab. I'll leave those on the board. So when I put these sentences up, what I want you to do is just take a few minutes yourself and see how you can translate on your own. And then I'll throw up the translations underneath. I'll leave them on the board so next week we'll get a little deeper in. So I just thought about it. Um, what I'll do is just actually throw up the translations. I'll put up the sentence, we'll throw up the translations, and then next week with those translations, we'll go through and use those same five sentences to identify your prefixes, suffixes, any qual stems, if there's any, root words, and things like that. All right, give me a second and let's get these sentences on the board. I'm gonna shut off the mic for a second to save this battery just in case it's the issue. So the first sentence I'm gonna put on the board is yesterday I went to work. The second sentence is today we are learning Hebrew. Next sentence is tomorrow I will listen to my music. Fourth sentence is yesterday you guarded the school. And the last sentence is tomorrow we will rest. All right, so those are the five sentences that I want you to translate. Do the best you can. You have some vocabulary currently on the board. So you see yesterday, today, tomorrow. You see Hebrew, you see music, you see guarded, you see school, you see a lot of the root words. So go ahead and get as much as much as you can down, and then in a quick minute, I'll throw up the Hebrew. Um, and just for today's sake, when I throw up the Hebrew translations, we'll we'll just be going over the pronunciations. And I'm gonna leave it on the board next week. We'll go over each sentence and break them down. Point out, like I said, any prefixes, any suffixes, any qual stems, identifying the root words, everything that we can to isolate and pick apart these sentences so we know we completely understand it as we move forward. So go ahead, I'll give you 60 more seconds. I'll check the chat. And I'm a monologue a little bit while you do that. Okay. So I was in the parking lot at Family Dollar on Wyoming and Tireman. Now, if you know are familiar with the West Side, that's the side of the town where I'm coming from, and one of those, what do you call them? JWs, Jehovah Wova, Jehovah Witnesses. You know, they approached the car, and I'm in my head, I'm thinking, back in the day, as when I was a Christian, even though I was argumentative then, Like you didn't want to be bothered with a Jehovah Witness. But then I thought to myself, you know what? My sword ain't been wet yet lately. I ain't cut nobody lately. And I got eager for that conversation. But one of the things that I do want to say to all coming in this, all the young men stepping in this, what I do want you guys to know is there's a zeal that you're going to come into this truth with. And nobody is trying to put water on that zeal. But like the scripture says, let your words be seasoned with salt. Like, you don't want to necessarily alienate and become, um, how should I put this? Offensive when you're first coming into this truth. Like a lot of the times, the brothers above you would just tell you, like, don't go out there and battle until you've passed your officer's test, until you can definitely break down certain scriptures and you're comfortable breaking down certain scriptures. Like those are words of wisdom that we are given when we first coming into this truth, because a lot of times we'll get emotional and frustrated when we first come into this truth, because people that raised us don't understand 1 plus 1. And it's just like you have this knowledge, you just got this truth, and you're absolutely right, and you want to share it with them. But unfortunately, guess what? The Most High blinded certain individuals. Everybody wasn't given the mind to understand these scriptures. Like they just weren't. And there's some people that you're not gonna be able to force anybody. You're gonna be able to present your clause, you know, and that's about it. You'll be able to stand on the word of God and defend it very well. But you're not gonna be able to force somebody to follow this truth. Like you can't convince somebody to follow this truth. They were given over to that reprobate mind. It's no amount of yelling and screaming that you can do to get a person, get your mom to stop eating pork. But guess what you do? Stop eating pork. Be that example. That's going to work more than telling them something that they don't want to hear. When you show them, they'll hear it then. They'll definitely hear it then. So don't let that fire go out, but definitely make sure it's used with the right energy. All right, so let's get the first sentence on the board. Um, the first sentence is yesterday I went to your house. So I'm gonna put up the Hebrew. Just give me 1 second. Actually, this would be a good homework assignment now that I think about it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put up the Hebrew pronunciation of each word. Instead of writing out the Hebrew characters in ancient or the Assyrian Hebrew, I'm gonna write out the Hebrew pronunciation in the English. And for word 5 sentences, all I want you to do is go ahead and translate them into the Hebrew script. And when we come back next Friday, we'll put these same 5 sentences on a board. We'll put them in the Hebrew and the Assyrian, and then break them down and isolate those characters and different aspects that I highlighted earlier. All right. So the first sentence is yesterday I went to your house. In Hebrew, that will be Thama Thamawal Anya Halak Thaya Salakia Halak Thaya La Bayathka. So I know I kind of said a lot there, but I didn't. That's the big thing. I didn't. That's why next week when we break each of these down, you know what? What I'll do is I'm just gonna spend the rest of the time we have in this class. I'm gonna try to wrap up within the next 10 minutes on this one, and I'll show you what we'll do for the next four and how we get into it next week. And that way you will see what I want you to do. But still translate these in the Hebrew for next class. The Hebrew, the ancient and the Assyrian. So you have all right. So the first sentence is yesterday I went to work. So like yeah, that is not the first sentence I meant to put up there. Yesterday I went to your house. Salakia. Um, to be honest, I don't even know where I got work from, but we're gonna move past that. So the first sentence is yesterday I went to your house. And the Hebrew is thamawal, thamawal anya halak thaya labayathka. All right, we're gonna say that again. Thamawal anya halak thaya labayathka. So next week, what we're gonna do for the other four sentences is translate them and break them down as such. So you clearly see that the word yesterday is identified. So yesterday is identified, and here that's your word, nothing to it. Anya, that means I. Something that we went over when we're going in the past, present, and future tenses. When I said Anya lamad thaya, that was um, I will learn or I learned in the past. But Anya is I in the Hebrew. So then you have halak. You see, halak simply is to go or walk. Thaya is that indicator of past tense. We went over that when we're going over the past, present, and future tenses. And then you have la bayath ka. Now you clearly see bayath. What does bayath mean? It's clearly on the board. I'm gonna put that in blue. I want to put that in red. So then you have, like I said, you have La, Bayath Ka, and then Bayath is your word for house. So you have Thamawal, easy word. That's just a word translation. Bayath, word translation. Halak will take a little understanding because that translates into go or to walk, but the sentence says, I went. But that's what you're doing when you're going or walking. You're moving. At that time, they didn't necessarily have cars, or they're not going to say, well, I flew a plane. They went. They went. Their form of transportation, more than likely, where they were walking, they used a horse or a camel, but the same motion of going was halak. So halak easily means to went, to go, to walk. And then you have your la. When we had those prefixes and suffixes on the board, what did that mean? What did la mean? La La meant two or four. Two or four. And then, of course, house was Bayath. House was Bayath, but it was Bayath Ka. Ka was a suffix. So you have prefix, you have a suffix, you have your root word, and you have an example of the past, present, and future, the past tense used. But ka, your suffix, was the possessive tense indicator of your. So thamawal yesterday, anya, I, halak, which means to go or to walk. In the past tense, halak thaya, I went, la bayath, to house, bayath ka, your house. So tu is la, bayath is house, ka is yours. Thamawal anya halak thaya, la bayath ka. Thamawal anya halak thaya, la bayath ka. That's how I would say, yesterday I went to your house in the Hebrew. All right. I'm going to go ahead and check the chat before we close out. Like I said, I'm going to leave these on the board. So next week we're going to finish up. We'll start back at the top. I'll definitely make a little bit more room, probably write something a little bit more neater, but next week we'll be in the ancient Hebrew and the Assyrian script. So not only will we translate them, we're going to translate them in the ancient Hebrew, the Assyrian, and we're going to break them down as such. Identify your root words, identify your verbs, identify your prefixes, identify your suffixes, and any other thing that we can identify. And the person is the devil the Bible speaks of. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close out. Meta Israel Amajim, Amajim Shabbat, Amajim, Barak, Yahabah Shem Yahweh Barakathon, Yajamatah, dismiss.
Hey, listen, brothers and sisters, man, if you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button, man. Subscribe to this channel. And also, please, go to isupk.com and pay your tithe. Drop me some cash so we can move around this planet like we need to, man, and do the things we need to do.
They're one West. They're one West. They're one West. They're